All right, I'm going to go over how to make the Photoshop line portrait. So this is going to be a self-portrait, so you'll be using a photograph of your own face. Get a nice, really high quality, well-lit close-up. It's going to help you because you're going to be needing to zoom in extremely close to certain parts of the face when we work on this. Notice the way I've set up this document. I have a layer here with the portrait on it, a white background layer, and then I've created a new layer called lineart, which is the layer where I'll be drawing my lines. We're going to be using primarily the pen tool and the brush tool for this. So selecting the pen tool, I have the option of using a shape layer or a path. So to draw lines, I'm going to use paths. So click that and use the pen tool and find lines that you're going to trace. There are a lot fewer lines on the face than we imagine when we're drawing. Like this, there's a shading here between the nose and the cheek. That's not really a line, that's shading. So we're going to kind of omit that. Primarily, we're focusing on lines. And we're going to draw everything in black. So using the pen tool, everyone has this line right here, kind of the fold of your eyelid. So use the pen tool, make a couple points, and trace that line. So trace that line pretty much as well as I can. And now I want to stroke that line with the brush tool. So I'm going to go to my brush tool and check the settings real quick. I'm going to make this smaller. Let's make it, I don't know, we'll do 2 pixels and make sure that it has a hard edge. All right, and go back to my pen tool, and now I'm going to control click stroke path. Oh, let's see, it won't let me stroke path because I don't have my line art layer selected. So remember, all the lines are going to go on the line art layer. So now that I have that highlighted, I can control click stroke path, and I'm going to select the brush tool and simulate pressure. Once I select that once, that'll be the default every time I outline that. Click OK, hit enter, and you can see here when I turn that off, it made a nice curved line that simulates the pressure, meaning it's thinner at the beginning and end, thicker towards the middle. So that is one line, and if you zoom out, you can't even see the line, so that tells me that I've done a good job so far. So we're going to have a bunch of lines. We'll have that same line over here, kind of like the hair will probably be one shape. Right here, the outline of that nostril, that's generally a line. So zoom way in. And be relying on the navigator a lot to zoom around, zoom in and move around this. But I still have the line art layer selected, so I'll still be using my pen tool. So sometimes I draw my line a little extended beyond where I really want it to be, because when it's simulated pressure, it's going to be so thin at the end, it'll be barely visible. So I think I'll probably do this line in a couple points. And that looks about right. And control click, stroke path, brush simulate pressure, OK, enter. And I continue like this throughout here, drawing lines and shapes. So those are lines. And then you're going to have shapes too. So shapes will be drawn with the pen tool also, but instead of having paths selected, I'm going to select shape layers. This is kind of one solid shape. I mean, these are lines, but they're all connected, so technically it's a shape. So when I have shape layers selected, you'll see that once I start drawing the shape, it'll go over here and create a new layer. So that's okay. Your shapes will be on their own layer. Zooming way in here. And just trying to draw exactly what I see on the face here. Remember, hold down Option to move your handle if you need to get the shape that you desire. So I'm going to kind of speed up a little bit just for the sake of time here, but trying to get the bend of these lashes. And something like this. So I'm running into a little issue here of not being able to see, because I need to come back here to finish my shape, but I can't see here to trace it. So if you hit any number on your keyboard, that'll lower the opacity of that shape by tenths. So for instance, if I hit 5, you'll see here it lowers the opacity of 50%. If I hit 2 or 3, 30%, 2, 20%. So if I hit 1, it lowers the opacity to 10%, so I can see the rest of the shape and kind of figure out where I need to trace. I'm going to kind of make it up a little bit here. And I'll come around here, make that curve. I'll need to adjust my handle. I'll go ahead and make this whole part a shape. So I can hit 0. It'll bring that back up to 100% opacity. Hit enter, and that closes that shape. And you'll see as I zoom out, it kind of looks like an eyelash. So the more detail you add, the better this will look, obviously. A couple other things I do as shapes. Nostrils are a shape. So I still have the pen tool selected, still have shape layer selected. So I'll go back here and trace this. Again, I can't see what I need to trace, so I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit and I just kind of make up the shape. So 0 to bring the opacity back to 100%, enter, closes that shape, and I now have a nostril, a nostril or nose hole, what I'll call it for lack of a better term, eyelash and that. So just continue along with this and I will have a line portrait. So remember, if I want to switch back to lines, be sure to highlight the line art layer, select the pen tool, and go back to paths. And just continue on the same trajectory. Control click, stroke path. It'll still use the original brush settings that I selected. So sometimes you might want to use a thicker brush or a thinner brush. You'll just have to do that depending on if the lines are thicker or not. Eyebrows can be tricky. She's got really nicely defined eyebrows, so those would probably be a shape. If you have like, sometimes you might actually have to do like individual lines for the eyebrows. The hair will probably all be one shape. So yeah, so just remember, you're going to be using the pen tool and either making paths on the line art layer and stroking those with a brush, or shape layers, and they will have their own layer over here. All right, happy line portrait drawing.